Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. Somebody must have found out what's been done at the office, said Mr. Sikes, in a much lower tone than he had taken since he came in. The Jew nodded assent. If he hasn't preached and is committed, there's no fear till he comes out again, said Mr. Sikes. And then he must be taken care of. You must get hold of him somehow. Again the Jew nodded. The prudence of this line of action indeed was obvious, but unfortunately there was one very strong objection to its being adopted. This was the Dodger, and Charlie Bates and Fagin and Mr. William Sikes happened one and all to entertain a violent and deeply rooted antipathy going near a police officer on any ground or pretext whatever. How long they might have sat and looked at each other, in a state of uncertainty not the most pleasant of its kind, it is difficult to guess. It is not necessary to make any guesses on the subject, however, for the sudden entrance of the two young ladies whom Oliver had seen on a former occasion caused the conversation to flow afresh. "The very thing," said the Jew. "Bet we'll go, won't you, my dear?" "Where's?" inquired the young lady. "Only just up to the office, my dear," said the Jew coaxingly. It is due to the young lady to say that she did not positively affirm that she would not, but that she merely expressed an emphatic and earnest desire to be blessed if she would. A polite and delicate evasion of the request, which shows the young lady to have been possessed of that natural good breeding which cannot bear to inflict upon a fellow creature the pain of a direct and pointed refusal. The Jew's countenance fell. He turned from this young lady, who was gaily, not to say gorgeously attired, in a red gown, green boots, and yellow curl papers, to the other female. "Nancy, my dear," said the Jew in a soothing manner, "what do you say?" "That it won't do, so it's no use of trying it on, Fagin," replied Nancy. "What do you mean by that?" said Mr. Sikes, looking up in a surly manner. "What I say, Bill," replied the lady collectedly. "Why, you're just the very person for it," reasoned Mr. Sikes. "Nobody about here knows anything of you." "And as I don't want him to neither," replied Nancy, in the same composed manner. "It's rather no more than yes with me, Bill." "She'll go, Fagin," said Sikes. "No, she won't, Fagin," said Nancy. "Yes, she will, Fagin," said Sikes. And Mr. Sikes was right. By dint of alternate threats, promises, and bribes, the lady in question was ultimately prevailed upon to undertake the commission. She was not, indeed, withheld by the same considerations as her agreeable friend, for, having recently removed into the neighborhood of Field Lane, from the remote but genteel suburb of Ratcliffe, she was not under the same apprehension of being recognized by any of her numerous acquaintance. Accordingly, with the clean white apron tied over her gown, and her curl papers tucked up under a straw bonnet, both articles of dress being provided from the Jew's inexhaustible stock, Miss Nancy prepared to issue forth on her errand. "Stop a minute, my dear," said the Jew, producing a little covered basket. Carry that in one hand. It looks more respectable, my dear. Give her a door key to carry in the other one, Fagin, said Sikes. It looks real and genuine-like. Yes, my dear, so it does, said the Jew, hanging a large street door key on the forefinger of the young lady's right hand. There, very good indeed, my dear, said the Jew, rubbing his hands. Oh, my brother, my poor sweet, dear sweet, innocent little brother, exclaimed Nancy, bursting into tears, and ringing the little basket on the street door key in an agony of distress. What has become of him? Where have they taken him to? Oh, do have pity, and tell me what's been done with the dear boy, gentlemen. Do, gentlemen, if you please, gentlemen. Having uttered those words in a most lamentable and heartbroken tone, to the immeasurable delight of her hearers, Miss Nancy paused, winked to the company, nodded smilingly around, and disappeared. Ah, she's a clever girl, my dears, said the Jew, turning round to his young friends, and shaking his head gravely, as if in mute admonition to them to follow the bright example they had just beheld. She's an honor to her sex, said Mr. Sikes, filling his glass and smiting the table with his enormous fist. Here's her health, and wishing there was all like her. While these and many other encomiums were being passed on the accomplished Nancy, that young lady made the best of her way to the police office, whither, notwithstanding a little natural timidity consequent upon walking through the streets alone and unprotected, she arrived in perfect safety shortly afterwards. Entering by the back way, she tapped softly with the key at one of the cell doors, and listened. There was no sound within, so she coughed and listened again. Still, there was no reply, so she spoke. Nolly, dear? Murmured Nancy in a gentle voice. Nolly? There was nobody inside but a miserable shoeless criminal who had been taken up for playing the flute, and who, the offense against society having been clearly proved, had been very properly committed by Mr. Fang to the house correction for 1 month, with the appropriate and amusing remark that since he had so much breath to spare, it would be more wholesomely expended on the treadmill than in a musical instrument. He made no answer, being occupied mentally bewailing the loss of the flute, which had been confiscated for the use of the county. So Nancy passed on to the next cell and knocked there. Well, cried a faint and feeble voice. Is there a little boy here? Inquired Nancy with a preliminary sob. No, replied the voice. God forbid. This was a vagrant of 65, who was going to prison for not playing the flute, or, in other words, for begging in the streets and doing nothing for his livelihood. In the next cell was another man, who was going to the same prison for hawking tin saucepans without license, thereby doing something for his living in defiance of the stamp office. But as neither of these criminals answered to the name of Oliver, or knew anything about him, Nancy made straight up to the bluff officer in the striped waistcoat, and with the most piteous wailings and lamentations, rendered more piteous by a prompt and efficient use of the street door key and the little basket, demanded her own dear brother. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again